So in Somerset we may well want different approaches to what is suitable for the centre of London. There will be different approaches wanted in Dorset or Devon or in Sussex or in Surrey. Even in Gloucestershire they may have some thought as to how they wish to approach these things. So and Hampshire, that fine county, Hampshire, one of the great counties that was on the right side when Alfred beat Guthrum, is always to be admired in these contexts. And they will decide what is appropriate and suitable for them, how they appoint and who they have. And one of the honourable gentlemen, my honourable friend speaking earlier, was talking about the risk that people would be appointed, I think the honourable member, my old friend for Torbay, they'd be appointed for political purposes, nefarious political purposes. And he said this, and of course, that is what's always happened. In the 18th century, it was called jobbery. Jobbery, I always thought, is a good word, because it so nicely encapsulates what happens as you get that corruption of baubles, essentially. That the government is the disperser, the owner of baubles, and it has a corruption built in as it gives those baubles, initially not specifically to its friends, merely to those who are not opposed. That somebody who is opposed would be going too far to allow an appointment to be made by the Secretary of State. It really wouldn't do to appoint somebody on the other wing of politics. Of course I give way.
My honourable friend therefore agree with me in this context, and he and I share this dislike of overweening executive action that sometimes in this place, particularly at, shall we say, at report stage of bills, too little time is given to members to discuss the kind of things that the executive wishes to impose upon us centrally.
Well, I have great sympathy with what my honourable friend is saying, and it is so important that we always have time. It's why Fridays are such a pleasure, because there is time to discuss a bill in full and in the round and consider the principles underpinning it, the details of the bill and what will happen to it if it were to be brought into effect. And this is a proper parliamentary procedure. I have such admiration for those great heroes of the 19th century, talking of which I give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank my very great friend, the advocate of the 16th century, for giving way. May I ask my honourable friend whether he considers the modern version of 17th century baubles appointments to the House of Lords?
My honourable friend, the Deputy Speaker, is giving me one of her looks. And I know that much though I would like to discuss reform of the House of Lords, I will be ruled out of order. So if my honourable friend member not Beaconsfield, begins with B anyway, will forgive me, I must get back to jobbery, because jobbery is at the heart of the bill and avoiding jobbery. And I was explaining how this is not a deliberate corruption when it starts. It is merely the recognition that somebody on the other extreme of politics is somebody who it just wouldn't do to appoint. You can hear Sir Humphrey going into the Secretary of State and saying, it would be a little brave, Minister, to appoint such and such who is on so different a wing from you. And then the next time an appointment comes up, there's the thought, well, if I couldn't appoint somebody who was actively opposed, perhaps I should only really appoint people who are on my side, that we should appoint mates, friends, and then you get to the heart of jobbery. You get appointments being made purely because of somebody's political colour and context. And it's very interesting in actually the Primary Care Trust in Bath and North East Somerset, the precedent of current organisations, a local Conservative took a judicial review against the previous Labour government to get himself appointed to be chairman of it, because he was the most qualified person who had only been refused on the basis that he was a Conservative. So the idea that jobbery has completely left the system is false. The idea that governments are so high and mighty and Olympian in their decision-making that they don't descend to mere political jobbery is, I'm afraid, false. Of course I give way.
I'm very grateful for the honourable member giving way, and the honourable member may consider that examples of jobbery abound in Wales, and it might be useful to look at some of the examples in Wales and the appointments made by the Welsh Government to the various public bodies there.
Just before the honourable lady concludes her intervention, I must remind her, for the sake of good form, and I appreciate that she hasn't been in the House very long, so I'm not reprimanding her, I'm merely reminding her, for the sake of good form, that she must not address her remarks to the honourable gentleman. She must address her remarks to the Chair.
Madam Deputy Speaker.
Mr Rees-Mogg.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. That was an absolutely brilliant and crucial point, that we want to get away from jobbery wherever it happens, and it is most likely to happen in areas where one party is in government for a very long time. I think... Oh, of course I give way to the honourable gentleman.
There's a current example of grotesque jobbery in the appointment by the Prime Minister of the Conservative members of the Council of Europe. And 3 splendid members, including the member for Christchurch, has been...
Order. I really have tried to give as much leeway as I can this morning to this debate, but I cannot reconcile Great Ormond Street Hospital, the Council of Europe. I'm quite sure that if the honourable gentleman wishes to bring some kind of analogy from Peter Pan, Never Never Land and the Council of Europe, he can do so, but I must warn that will have to be really quite narrow. Mr Rees-Mogg.
There was an urgent question on the matter, and I don't think there's any more for me to say beyond what was said then. But that what I was saying was that jobbery is a real problem, and I was going on to say that it comes more when a party is in office for a very long time, and then you just get accustomed, the system gets accustomed to appointing people who belong to routine consensus political views, and they are the ones who get, as I was saying earlier, the baubles. Now, many of these charitable baubles are unpaid, but they come with a great deal of status in their community, so there is a benefit to the person receiving them, and it's right that it should be made more independent of the government.